we already know the theory of cycles and targets. Based on these theories, we can learn price habits. Each currency pair has its own habits. To know these habits, we will need the third panel of our indicator, which is the historical measurement. This module consists of 2 rows, with various buttons. To see how it works, we make the first measurement. To make the measurement, unlike the current measurement, here we need to identify 4 points A, B, C, D. After clicking on the A, B, C, D points, let's see how much information the indicator on an wave just detected gives us. If the information is too much, in a short time, by clicking on the Modify button, and then the H button, on the chart only the essential information remains. We see that in this case the cycle ABCD lasted 27 days, the ABC cycle 19 days, and the BC cycle 5 days. The 2 vertical lines mark the UG cycles, from point C, and UG from point B. As we can see, the change in the direction of the price trend is very precise, as regards the days identified according to the UG technique. The important information for us is the following: how far the price goes, or to which target. A simple target, or an intermediate target. The second, how long the N wave lasts. It means from point A to point D. N wave bearish lasting 27 days, with arrival at intermediate targets. As we see, 27 days are very close to Hosoda cycles. Let's change the color of the next wave, and do the calculations. The next bearish N wave, with A, B, C, D points. As always, we get a lot of information on this wave. On the graph, we leave only the information that interests us, that is the time of the wave duration. Having identified points A, B, C and D, we see that also in this case between point A and D exactly 27 days have passed. The price has reached the intermediate target, as in the previous wave. If we leave the essential information on the graph, everything becomes readable. Here we can see that Yugi has done his job well again. The price has changed the direction in both the first and the second case. As for the information we have here, that's all. In this case, we have identified 2 elements that are important to us. 1, that the price often stops on intermediate targets, and not simple targets. 2, the duration of the N wave is close or identical with Hosoda cycles. Let's change the color, and make another example, the A, B, C, D points, impulse that cuts the Kijun line, and correction that retests the Kijun line. The first thing we notice is that the price stops on the intermediate targets, as in the previous waves. Now let's eliminate all the elements. We don't need any more. Press Modify button, and H button. We also hide the juggy lines. The whole N wave lasts 31 days. That is again close to Hosoda's cycles. To leave this information on the chart, before using the H button, we must highlight our reach targets. All these measurements, we made at the end of 2018. Now let's see how the price has behaved in the most recent times. Half of the year 2019, we are looking for A, B, C, D points, impulse that cuts the Kumo, correction that retests the Kumo. We leave on the chart only the essential information, and two things we can notice immediately. The first, that the Jugi lines again worked well, especially the second line. Duration of the N wave is 41 days. That is almost perfect cycle of Hosoda. In this case, the price stopped on 3 targets: target N, V, and intermediate target. By selecting the reached targets again, we leave only the essential information on the chart. The third module, of historical measurements, allows us to make quick analysis of price behavior in history, using Hosoda's theories as a reference point. Another example of the A, B, C, D wave. Again, we leave only the necessary calculations on the chart. The whole wave N lasts 33 days and, as always, I forget to select the reached targets. Thanks to our indicator, it is easy to fix and make the calculations appear on the chart. And even in this case, we see that the price has stopped on the intermediate target. Another wave lasts 33 days, as Hosoda cycle, and the price stops on the intermediate target. This is the information that is worth knowing when we must trade on this currency pair, and we have done the historical analysis on a currency pair. We can also use this analysis for the calculation of denying and habitual ranges automatically. We select the first wave, and from this point on, impulses of all the waves are calculated as possible denying and habitual ranges. I always propose to choose the last 2 or 3 waves to avoid that the chart becomes unreadable. Now, if we make the measurement of the N wave, the quantities of the denying and habitual ranges will be shown on the chart. As I said before, too many denying and habitual ranges make the chart unreadable. We can identify the habitual range A, B, 1, and C, D, 1, which correspond to the change in the direction of the price trend. These magnitudes we found with the first wave detected, A, B, 1, and C, D, 1. When we have too much information on the chart, we can simply delete what we don't need. To do so, we must first exit the automatic counting mode of denying and habitual ranges. By deactivating the automatic counting of denying and habitual ranges, we can do our job by cleaning the chart. We select the targets reached by the price, and with a few clicks, all the rest of the information that we no longer need disappear. We now do the automatic measurement of denying and habitual ranges, based on the last 3 waves. Our indicator stores those quantities which are also displayed with the current measurement. The denying and habitual ranges, in this case, have done its job well, because, as we can see, the price has stopped exactly on the CD5 size. After a brief description of the theory, how to take advantage of the historical measurement, I move on to the description of each single button on this panel, to understand how we can best use this indicator. We are looking for an N wave, in this case impulse cut the Kumo, and retest the Kumo. We see that the price has reached the simple NT target, and, from point A to point D 45 days have passed. Maybe, it means we haven't finished the bullish movement yet. As we said before, we have 2 rows, and the first row is dedicated to time. First button allows you to show or hide all calculations related to time. Each time, to modify these calculations, first I have to select the wave I want to modify. I have to click on the A, B, impulse. The procedure is simple. Click on the Modify button, afterwards on the Yes or No button, and all the calculations disappear. Only the time calculations are left. With a few clicks, again all calculations appear on the chart. The second button in the time row allows to see or hide time calculations between points A and C. The third button, in the time row, is used to show or hide the Jugi line calculations. With the usual procedure of the Modify button, then the Jugi button, again the Modify button, and these calculations disappear from the chart. The fourth button, on the first row, allows us to change the impulse's thickness of the N wave. We change thickness to 5, A, B and C. D impulses change thickness, and become more visible. Let's go back to thickness 2. The last button of the first row, we have already seen in action, is used to select 5 buttons at the same time of the second row. This allows us to hide quickly all the measurements that are not needed to observe the price habits. Always remember that if we want to leave on the chart also the target price reached. For using this button, we have to select the targets that we want to leave on the chart. With the first button of the second row, we can show or hide all calculations related to the target theory. With 2 clicks, we go back to our original settings again, and all the information about this N wave. The second button allows us to make target calculations using the highs and lows reached by the price during this period, or by candles closures. As we can see, the results change considerably. As I have already mentioned, only on some currency pairs, the calculation on candlestick closures gives good results. Most currency pairs work very well with the extremes. Let's go back to the calculations with extremes, and see what the third button is for. This button allows us to view or hide the results of multiple targets. As I mentioned in the previous video, some targets can be multiplied as we see here: 2V, 3V, 4V, 2E. This button, with the usual procedure, press Modify button, and all the results of the multiplied targets are hidden. Let's go back to the settings, with all the measurements, and see what button number 4 is for. With this button, we can show or hide the intermediate targets. The multiplied targets are back because the F button has not been pressed again, but the intermediate targets are no longer present. Button number 5 and 6 are used to show or hide calculations of denying and habitual ranges. To obtain the denying and habitual ranges on the chart, we must first delete the N wave. Let's go back to the panel of denying and habitual ranges, and mark the denying and habitual ranges on the historical chart. The denying ranges are the magnitudes of the bearish impulses, in search of the magnitude of a bullish impulse. Habitual ranges are the bullish magnitudes, in search of a magnitude of a bullish impulse. With these measurements, on the new N wave, denying and habitual ranges will be displayed. As we see, DR3 impulse precisely matched the current impulse size. It is the part of the strategy that is often underestimated, but gives very good results in the evaluation up to where the price should go, especially when the positive or negative magnitudes correspond to the targets calculated according to A, B, C points. With the fifth button, we can hide the habitual ranges, and with the sixth button, we can hide the denying ranges. As for all the buttons on the panel dedicated to historical measurements, that's it. I hope that thanks to these measurements, we can learn Hosoda's theory of cycles and targets well. In the next movie, we will talk about the panel of manual measurements. Thank you for your attention.